It is stated in BS 7121 Part 4 that training of lorry loader operators should include training and assessment in pre-operational checks. This video is not a substitute for the appropriate full training required for the operation of all types of lorry loader. It is intended to complement and not replace the need for formal and ongoing training and assessment. Pre-operational checks are a legal requirement, not only on the vehicle but also on any ancillary equipment fitted. This includes lorry loaders. VOSA, the Vehicle and Operator Services Agency, now has the power to issue on-the-spot fines and penalties in the event of a defect being found that has obviously been present for some time, or would have been obvious to the driver due to the vehicle's handling or the vehicle's warning system being active. A pre-operational check should be carried out at the start of each shift, or when taking the vehicle over for the first time. They're intended to record that the lorry loader is safe to use and/or that any defects have been reported to your supervisor. Under this process, as an operator, you have the responsibility to determine whether or not the lorry loader is safe to use, and also the responsibility to ensure that you do not use an unsafe machine by reporting these defects. All pre-operational checks should be carried out in your depot or branch before leaving for the day's work. This saves arriving on site only to discover that a fault prevents you from being able to use the lorry loader. The use of a form designed for the purpose assists the operator in ensuring all appropriate checks are carried out and recorded. Forms can often be laid out differently, and you will, over a short period of time, adopt a routine which flows in a sequence which suits you and your machine. The following method is one which particularly suits the ALLMI pre-operational checks template. The first items to check are in the cab. Do you have the documentation you require, such as the current overload test certificate, current reports of thorough examination for the loader, and for any attachments and accessories? Do you have the loader manufacturer's handbook and proof of your own training? Many sites will request any or all of these before allowing you to work on their site. Whilst in the cab, there are other things which can be checked. Do you know your travelling height? And have you set the height indicator in your cab correctly? Does the PTO engage properly? And is the handbrake interlock working? The hydraulic oil level and colour should always be checked prior to unfolding the loader and deploying the stabilizers. The next step is to deploy the stabilizers. Are the locks working properly? Are the hoses in good condition? Is the leg in-out and up-down functioning correctly? And are there any signs of leaks? To prevent the need for working at height, the lorry loader can then be brought into a suitable position without a load for the remaining visual items to be checked. This is the time to check that all levers are returning to neutral and that the emergency stop buttons work. Now, looking for leaks and for any damage to the structure or pipework. The grab attachment forms an important part of these checks, as it is this which holds the load. Are there any cracks or leaks? Are the capacity plates intact and readable? Are the rails secure and rubbers intact? Are the hooks intact with safety catches and marked with their rated capacity? Are the hoses and fittings serviceable? Are the rotator bolts tight? And is the A-link pin secure? Once satisfied that all visual items have been completed, the basic lorry loader functions and safety systems can then be tested. You've already ensured the levers are smooth and the stop buttons work, so we can now check that the safety features are working correctly. The first item to check in this regard is the rated capacity limiter. The manufacturer's handbook will explain how to do this specifically in relation to your make and model of lorry loader. Generally, it will consist of putting the first and second booms in a recoverable position or configuration first, and then slowly bringing the first boom ram fully open until it reaches its stop. Once its stop is reached, maintain the pressure on the lever and ensure the limiter is indicating firstly the approach to overload and then a total overload signal. At this point, all levers on the loader, except those which are allowed to be brought inwards, should be locked out, and now is the time to check that the boom height warning indicator is working. If this warning is tied into the handbrake interlock, you'll need to release the handbrake momentarily. On most, this can be done whilst covering the foot brake, but on some specifications of vehicle, it may be necessary to chock the wheels. Other safety systems can then be checked. These may include legs locked warning, leg deployment systems, stand-up controls, and slew limitation. Basically, if it's fitted, it must be working. The brick grab functions can be checked, along with all other loader functions, before placing the loader into its travelling position. Other items you need to include in your check are cones, stabiliser footpads, appropriate PPE and wet weather gear, the lifting plans, and accessories such as slings and chains, which additionally must be checked visually for damage before and after each use. When items have been checked off, the form should now have a tick, a cross, or an NA against every item. Blank boxes cause doubt. The form should then be signed by the operator and also by his supervisor. A copy is then kept in the cab and one in the office. So to summarise, the operator is responsible for ensuring the lorry loader is safe to use and that in the event of any defects being found, they are reported to your supervisor. This also applies to any issues which may arise during the shift or whilst using the machine. In the event of any defects being found which are detrimental to the safe operation of the loader, then it must not be used until repairs have been completed by a suitably competent person and signed off. The manufacturer's handbook should be checked against the advice and methods provided in this section, and that the manufacturer's instructions are followed at all times. These checks only take a few minutes. Apart from the fact that they are a legal requirement, you could save a life or prevent a serious accident.